Hello and welcome to the Sacramento City Unified School District School Site Council training. In today's training, you'll learn more about school site council responsibilities, the school plan for student achievement, school site funding and linking expenditures to student achievement, composition and election of school site council members, roles and running effective meetings, district and CDE requirements and school site council supports, and then we will end with questions and answers. Now I will hand it off to Sean Alexander.
We're going to talk now about school site council responsibilities. The primary role of the school site council is to advise on the creation or revision of the school plan for student achievement, and we're going to be calling that the SPSA. The school site council approves the SPSA, monitors the plan during the year, and evaluates the effectiveness of its programs. In addition, the school site council reviews district policies, reviews meeting and operating procedures for the council, develops an annual meeting calendar, reviews bylaws annually, encourages parents and community members, teachers, and students to take on leadership roles in the council and participate in activities. They approve the site parent involvement policy and school parent compact, and they carry out other duties assigned by the school board or required by the state or federal law. Areas that are outside of the responsibility of the school site council are school management, supervision of staff, policy making, fundraising, political organizing, personnel committee, grievance committee, extension of the PTSA or PTA, or a social group. Some schools choose to merge their ELAC with the school site councils, merge those duties. The ELAC is the English Learner Advisory Committee. A ELAC may delegate responsibilities to the school site council after the ELAC meets, reviews their responsibilities, and then votes on whether or not to have the school site council carry out those duties for up to 2 years. That has to be reflected, that vote has to be reflected in both the agenda and the minutes of that meeting. Once that happens, the school site council reviews the duties of the ELAC, and they work to vote to take on those duties, and that needs to be also reflected in the school site council agenda or the minutes of that meeting. And if a school has more than 21 or more English learners, you must have an ELAC. The proportion of EL parents on the school site council must be at least as high as the proportion of EL students in the school. The basic expectations of school site council members: you're expected to attend all meetings, to participate, ask questions, and share your ideas, to be committed to the process and respectful of other members, and to remember that you are elected to represent your peers, all of your school families. So you want to keep that in mind as you're making decisions around the plan.
Now we'd like to talk a little bit about the school plan for student achievement. All Title I funded schools must have a school plan for student achievement, or SPSA. For ease, we'll refer to the school plan for student achievement as a SPSA throughout this presentation. A SPSA serves as the school's plan and includes the actions and services the schools will implement to improve and increase student achievement. The school site council has two primary tasks with regard to the school site to the SPSA. First, the school site council should frequently review student level and school level data as a means to monitor and implement the SPSA actions and possibly make budgetary adjustments. We'll talk a little bit more about budgetary adjustments in a moment. In addition, in the spring, the school site council will look at data to determine the effectiveness of the actions and services in the SPSA as a means to plan for the following year. During each meeting, the school site council should at some point discuss the implementation of some of the actions and services named in the SPSA and the use of funding for those actions and services. They should also revise and approve any changes to actions or funding as needed. And in the spring, the school site council will assist in the evaluation of the implementation of the plan. The evaluation section can be found at the end of each goal section of the SPSA. This evaluation is important because it can inform the following year's goals, actions, and services. Earlier, I said that there may be a need to adjust the budget or actions in the SPSA. These adjustments are called mid-year changes. Several factors may lead to a mid-year change in the SPSA. For example, new student data indicates a need for a new program or activity, or a removal of an ineffective program or activity. Your plan to purchase something is no longer available, or that item is on back order. Or state and federal laws change and indicates that your plans are now out of compliance. Either way, your SPSA's balance must be at zero. This means that all funds have been allocated and accounted for. Lastly, the school site council approves changes to activities, actions, or strategies, as well as funding changes to the SPSA. Now is a good time to pause this webinar to discuss what has been covered thus far or ask questions. Now we'd like to talk a little bit about effective uses of school site funds to impact student learning. LCFF supplemental concentration and Title I funds are the primary sources of funding for our school sites. LCFF supplemental concentration funds should be principally directed to improve outcomes for students, particularly our unduplicated students. These are students who are identified as low income, English learners, foster youth, or homeless youth. In addition, schools have access to Title I funds. These funds are restricted, meaning that they have rules and regulations tied to the use of funds. In addition to Title I and LCFF funds, your school may also have grants, which also may come with particular rules and regulations. The district receives additional LCFF funds or supplemental concentration funds based on the number of low-income English language learners, foster youth, and homeless youth students. The district shares these funds with schools, and as I said earlier, they must be principally directed towards our targeted students. In addition, the LCFF funded plans in your SPSA must also align to our LCAP, or our Local Control Accountability Plan. The Title I funds must be used on evidence-based interventions, strategies, and actions. All Title I funded actions must be monitored for our effectiveness in increasing the academic achievement of students through measurable outcomes. Interventions supported by higher levels of evidence are more likely to improve student outcomes because they have been proven to be effective. Sites like the What's Work Clearinghouse help schools to identify evidence and research-based actions. Though it is the principal and staff that know what actions have been most successful for students, the school site council plays a role in approving, monitoring, and evaluating the actions in the SPSA. Here's a slide that shows some examples of Title I expenditures. The school site council's work is based on a process of continuous improvement. This graphic is an example of what the process of continuous improvement looks like. You begin by gathering data, studying or analyzing the data and setting goals as well as measurable outcomes, and gathering evidence-based best practices. And then based on that data, you create your plan for improvement and then implement your plan. Now is a good time to pause the webinar and discuss what has been covered thus far or ask questions.
Now we're going to talk about the composition and election of the school site council. We'll start with our elementary model. Laws govern how school site councils are composed, and there must be parity or equality between the number of staff and the number of parents or community members on the council. The council consists of the principal or a school designee, no less than 3 classroom teachers. Teachers are always the majority on the staff side of the council. And when we say classroom teachers, we mean teachers with a rostered list of students in a classroom. 1 other staff that could be classified or certificated, no less than 5 parents. There could be more members as long as there's parity between the staff group and the parent group. This chart shows some examples of the numbers within each elementary school site council. Let's start with 10. We'd have 1 principal, 3 classroom teachers, 1 other staff, and 5 parents. The minimum number you can have on your council for an elementary school is 10, and it goes up incrementally in even numbers to assure parity. In the secondary model, the same laws apply. A principal or of the school or their designee, no less than 3 classroom teachers, 1 other staff, parents and community members, and a little bit different in a secondary model, students can also be part of the school site council. And there can be more members, as we had spoken of before, as long as there's parity between the staff membership and the parent community student membership. And here's a chart that shows the secondary model. The minimum number for the secondary model on the council is 10, and it goes up incrementally in even numbers. School site council elections. Parent membership on the school site council really should reflect your school community, including all your student groups. Parents handle the balloting and election of parents, and parents are equal voting members of the council. Teachers are also equal voting members, and the numbers of teachers on the school site council must be higher than the combination of the administrator and other staff. Teachers on the council must attend meetings, and an alternate cannot vote or make a quorum if sent. Teachers may not veto or alter the school plan process once it has been approved, without approval of the entire council. The principal or their designee is an equal voting member of the council. The principal is responsible for school site council elections and making sure that the meetings and required activities take place. The principal has no administrative authority over the council, and the principal may not veto a decision of the council or make a plan or budget change without council approval. The other staff that we talked about on the school site council staff side could include classified personnel, such as clerical, instructional, custodial, and food service staff, a certificated support staff member who is not assigned as a classroom teacher, for example, a counselor or a resource teacher, or itinerant staff, for example, translators, nurse, or a school psychologist. Now's the time to pause for questions. Rules in running an effective meeting. Once you have your school site council in place, the council itself must choose a chairperson who organizes the agenda, convenes, and leads the meetings, a vice chair who serves in the absence of the chairperson, a secretary who records the events and actions taken by the council. We have to stress this is a very important position. The requirements by the state are very, very detailed minutes. So you want to make sure that you're naming the person who makes the first motion, who seconds it, and the numbers of yays and nays within your minutes. And a parliamentarian. The parliamentarian's job is to maintain the Roberts Rules of Order, to assist the chairperson in running that meeting, and also to be knowledgeable of the bylaws of the council in case there's need for reference. The tools you should have at the meeting are your member roster, a copy of your bylaws, and by the way, all of these wonderful tools of bylaws and examples of minutes, Dr. Adipo has made a wonderful toolkit on the School Site Council website, on the SCUSD.edu website, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can go on and use those templates. You need to also have your meeting agenda, sign in, and a copy of the minutes that you're going to be approving, a copy of your SPSA with budget instructional calendar, previous SPSA and current practice and evaluation tools, and also your student achievement data. That could be CASP tests, it could be other local school assessment results, grades and other academic data, but don't forget attendance, behavior data, suspension data, and survey results. Your meetings are considered open to the public. A quorum must be there to vote on the meeting, and a quorum is 50% of your membership plus one. Does that mean it has to be, let's say, 3 parents and 3 staff members plus one? No, it's 50% of your total membership plus one. Time should be allocated for public comment. We suggest 2 minutes per. You need to post the meeting in advance, 72 hours. You need to specify the date, the time and location, and your agenda describing each item to be worked on. You want to create a sign-in sheet for anybody who attends and provide copies of the materials that the school site council members will be looking at to the public. Notify alternates that they may not vote or count towards a quorum for that meeting, and you are required to follow the posted agenda. The reason for this is the Greene Act. The Greene Act says the council cannot act or vote on any item that was not on the posted agenda. There are exceptions. You post your agenda, and within that 72 hours, something comes up that needs immediate action. If in fact that's the case, the council has to unanimously vote to add that item to the agenda. If in fact anyone perceives that these protocols were not followed, the item needs to be tabled and put on the agenda for another meeting. The right of the minority. School site members have the right to be heard and to voice dissent, and you have the right to have your dissent noted in the record. However, once that dissent is given and the vote is taken, it's the decision of the collective body, even those who objected. In other words, the majority rules. School site council requirements and supports. The state and the district require reporting to both state and district yearly, monthly, and as needed. Yearly, we require your staff and parent election process, your roster of membership, your officers' names, and your meeting schedule. Monthly, it's required that you send your meeting agendas, your meeting minutes in detail, as we spoke of before, and all your sign-in sheets. And as needed, we'll need your school plan for student achievement, your SPSA, bylaw changes, and changes in membership. And those reports can be sent to Dr. Adipo's office in the state and federal department.
This concludes our presentation. This slide covers some essential resources that may be useful to your school site council. If you need additional support, please feel free to contact the Office of State and Federal Programs or the Family and Community Empowerment Department. Thank you.